Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's CATHETA webinar. We are coming to you live on November 4th, 2025. If anybody is a Native Learning Center CATHETA webinar first timer in the room, know that our CATHETA webinars get their name from the Creek word for learning. And today you're going to be learning about how to write a business plan from your instructor, Russ Siegel. My name is Brooke Warrington. I'm the Training and Development Specialist here at the Native Learning Center. We're all really thrilled that you could tune in for today's webinar. If you could follow along while I read the disclaimer aloud, this webinar provides a summary of fundamental concepts, requirements, and/or procedures within the allotted 90 minutes. The material discussed does not illustrate all possible scenarios that could be applicable. We also have our copyright infringement law printed here. So this is just a friendly reminder that the webinar materials are protected by copyright, trademark, trade secret, and other intellectual property laws. Moving forward, if you wish to check out the recording of today's webinar or you want to look at a PDF of the slides, you can find that in the courses section. And then I have also put a link to today's slides in the chat for you. And I will put that in one more time. Just a moment here. There we go. All right. If you wish to tune in for a webinar in the future, if this is your first time on the platform, just know that you'll log in whenever we have a live webinar happening, and you'll click on that green banner to join just like you did today. We do ask that you try to join with listen-only capabilities. Just helps to cut down on any audio feedback in our recording. And if you've joined and you found that your sound is coming out of the wrong device, maybe you're trying to listen on your headphones, maybe you have a Bluetooth speaker, whatever the case may be, you can click on the telephone icon down at the bottom of your screen, or you might actually have a headset icon instead. And that'll bring up a list of your speaker devices, and you can select the right audio output. We do, of course, encourage class participation. We want to hear your comments, want to know your questions, and we'll primarily rely on the public chat feature to do that. If you don't yet have yours expanded, you can go over to the messages panel and then click on public chat. And anything you would like to say, ask, comment, whatever the case may be, perhaps any kind of tech support issues that I can help you navigate through, you'll just come down to the box where it says send message to public chat, click in there, type what you want to say, and then you can hit enter, or you can click on the little paper airplane icon to submit it in. If you go over to the shared notes section, we do have a list of important links for you, including today's webinar feedback survey, a link to our YouTube channel, the link that you can bookmark for easy login in the future. And then if you feel somewhere along the way we maybe missed your question or comment, you could always use the raise hand feature all the way in the bottom right to draw our attention to it. We'd love if you get the chat box going together now. You could take a moment and let us know your name, where you're tuning in from. It's always fun to see all the different tribal nations that are represented on the webinar. Your work or your role in Indian country, it might have led you to today's webinar. You might be here for your own personal use. And then also your tribal affiliation. You might not have tribal affiliation. You might just be a tribal employee. That is okay too. And just a quick final warning while y'all are introducing yourselves in the chat. Do your best to avoid clicking on the red menu panel that's all the way to the left-hand side of your screen. Yours might just be the icons if it's not expanded. But just know that it's not going to give you like a warning message. It'll just immediately pull you out of the webinar and take you to whatever you've clicked on the menu. You can always rejoin by clicking on that green banner, but I just want to give you a heads up. All right, folks, while you are introducing yourselves in the chat, it is with great pleasure that I introduce today's webinar instructor, Russ Siegel. And Russ, I have made you presenter now.
All right. Well, thanks, Brooke. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I want to get started with a little confession. So, yes, I am the director of a CDFI, Native CDFI in Cherokee. That's not the capacity that I join you in today. Today, I'm going to join you in my capacity as a guy who's read hundreds and hundreds of business plans over the last 30 years or so. I've helped write dozens of business plans for other businesses, entities, even some governments and public agencies. And I've written a pretty good handful for my own businesses. So I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. And what we want to do today is just let you know what you're going to need to make sure you put in your business plan, what you want to leave out, because there are some pretty important things that you want to make sure you don't put in your business plan as well. Sometimes your strength is in what you leave out. And I'm going to make this as simple as possible. Now, you do have to hang around until the last slide, unless you go ahead and download it. I guess you could cheat, just download the slides. And on the last slide, I have a link to a free downloadable fill in the blank business plan. Now, it's nothing that you would ever want to take to the bank or to a CDFI to get money. But I'm going to explain why it's important to have a fill in the blank business plan as we go. But I do want to make sure that we address your particular needs as we go through this material today. So if there's something that you have a question about, please drop it into the chat. If I miss it, I'm sure Brooke will catch it and bring it up at the end so that we can address it. Like I said, I've been doing this for 30 years or so, and I've seen some really bad business plans. So here's the confession. I think confession is good for the soul. I don't love business plans. They're a necessity, but I don't love them. And the reason is there's just not really one way to write a business plan. So there's no standard, no matter what people tell you. There's just not one right way to write a business plan. And most people, well, they don't do a very good job. Either they have AI do it today, which in this case, AI doesn't know much about your business, and now neither do you, so it's useless. Or we skim through it and we do really not a great job of writing the business plan. Or maybe we write a business plan that is robust and it's full of good information and it's a good guide for the business. We get a loan or we get an investor, and then we drop that business plan into a drawer in the desk and we never look at it again. So I just don't think business plans in general are very friendly the way we've been doing it. So I want to give you a new way to think about a business plan and a new way to do a business plan. And I'm going to include a lot of the things that I personally like to see in a business plan, some things that I believe help lenders make good decisions about you and your business. But also, I'm going to include some things that others, just like me, have told me over the years. People who do small business lending and investing, people who've bought small businesses, people who've started small businesses. I'm giving you the benefit of all of those conversations. Not all business plans are created equal. Now you have access to the chat. Let's see if you're still there. Tell me what you believe this is a business plan for. This is a real business plan. You get points if you guess. You get extra points if you get it right. Okay. Bonnie, you are on the right track with air transportation. Let's go a little bit deeper, a little bit more specific. This was actually for a brand new business. Give you just a couple more seconds here. I know you're really close. I like some of these ideas. I mean, again, ride share expansion, pilot car shuttling. You're starting to see some of the possibilities here. You're starting to see the concept, and we're going to talk about that word. Yeah, shipping cold goods. Well, let's just go ahead and jump over here and give it away, shall we? You may have flown on one of these, a Southwest Airlines jet. Now, the guy who you see there, he was the founder, one of the founders of the company. His name was Herb Kelleher, and he started out as the company's legal counsel. Everybody else quit. He was left holding the keys to the front door, so to speak. And Herb and a friend were sitting in a bar one night because Herb, well, he was a different breed of cat. Herb loved whiskey. And as Herb was sitting in the bar drinking, they decided that what Texas really needed was a commuter airline between these three major cities. Something that was very simple, something that would change the rules of the game for the airline industry, which they both agreed they hated. Because even today, airlines are built to move you like cattle. They're not built for passengers. The same way airports are built for airplanes and not for people. None of that industry was really designed for us. But Herb had a different thought. He said, if we could just have 3 planes, 3 routes, 3 destinations, and move people around Texas in a way that's fast, efficient, and fun, then maybe we could be onto something. And so they drew this, and folks, the more they drank, the better the idea sounded. This was their business plan. Well, we don't know what the original looked like, but this is what it looked like. This is not his handwriting, but this is the concept. This is exactly what Herb came up with. Now, true, things have changed with Southwest Airlines recently due to them being bought out by a private equity company. They're making some changes, some of them good, some of them bad. But Herb never thought about, oh, we need to have airline lounges and clubs, and we need to have first class, and we need to serve fancy drinks and fancy meals. There were just a lot of things that the airlines were doing he thought was unnecessary. Let's have 3 planes, 3 routes, 3 destinations, and let's get it done. Now, interestingly enough, the plane that he's holding, the model plane, is a 737, a Boeing jet. And he said, this is really simple. If we only have one type of aircraft, our pilots can fly any of them. We don't have to have people trained and retrained and certified and recertified on different aircraft. We don't have to have them getting a certain number of hours in one aircraft before they graduate to another. We can have them all fly all of our aircraft. Well, they have been the most continuously profitable airline in the entire industry for about the last 40 years. So they've done something right. I'm not going to recommend that you write this type of business plan. Your banker may not appreciate it. However, even though you didn't know it was Southwest, a lot of you started to see the concept. You could see that we were moving something, that we had 3 cities, that we were moving things back and forth. You started to see that concept. And that's really important. Now, this is going to frustrate some of you when I say this, and that's okay. It frustrates me as well. But if you've seen one business plan, you've not seen them all. You've seen one business plan, or at least you should. You would never write a resume and a cover letter that just says, "Dear employer, I want a job." And you send it out to everybody, no matter what job you're looking for. You would never do anything that generic because that doesn't make sense. You would customize your resume to the job. You would customize it for the hiring manager or director or whoever is doing the hiring. You would make sure that they think it's written for them. Well, the same thing applies to your business plan. You will not write one business plan. You may write 4 business plans. You may write 14 business plans. You may write 40 business plans, because your business plan needs to be tailored for whoever is reading it. And everyone who reads it wants to see something different. So let's talk about what people want to see in your business plan. Well, your lender wants to see that you're committed, right? If this is just a side hustle and maybe you could fund it with a credit card, okay, go that route. But if you're borrowing money, the bank, the CDFI, the lender wants, even if it's your cousin, your lender wants to know that you are all in, and they want to see that you're committed. They also want to see that at some point, this business is going to be able to generate enough cash flow to stand on its own, that at some point it's not going to be living on borrowed money. It's going to be running on cash that the business generates, that it's creating its own fuel. They get paid right out of the starting gate. Lenders are going to get paid, that after that first month you're in business, they're going to want payments every month. So they want to know, can you generate cash flow? As opposed to an investor. An investor may say, well, cash flow is great, but I don't start getting paid until you're profitable. Profitability and positive cash flow are two different things. So the investor is going to want to know, how fast are you going to become profitable? Looking at something completely different. Your landlord, whether that landlord is an independent landlord, a corporate landlord, or if it's the tribe, listen, there's one thing all landlords hate, and that's vacancies. If that building, if that space is sitting empty, it's not generating revenue for them. They're not able to pay their bills. But there's something they hit almost as much as vacancy, and that's turnover. Now, think about where you live. You're either close to or you know of what I would call a doomed location. A doomed location is that location where you drive by and you say, oh, wow, there's something new in there this week. Or you say, yeah, I've heard of that restaurant, but I'm not going to eat there. I don't want to get attached, because nothing ever survives in that location. Turnover has marked that location as doomed. And landlords do not want to be in that position. They don't want to see that massive turnover. So a good landlord should want to see your business plan, and what they're looking for is, do you have longevity? Do you have a plan to be there? Yes, you may right now only be able to sign a 1-year or a 3-year lease. And by the way, sign the shortest lease that you can afford when you're starting out. The shortest lease that you can afford, because you don't want to be stuck in a 10-year, 20-year, 50-year financial commitment that you can't handle. But whatever the size of the lease is, that landlord is going to want to know, okay, are you going to be here when the lease ends so that we can renew it and I can keep you as a renter? Are you going to stay here? Are you going to be a stable tenant? The SBA, now the SBA does not make direct loans. They guarantee loans through banks. But what they're looking for is your business going to create enough cash flow to make your payments? Are you going to hire anybody? Are you going to contribute to the tax base? Are you going to put money back into this system reliably so that we can guarantee more loans? Right now, we are at an all-time high in business formations. We peaked in COVID. And it makes sense, because during COVID, a lot of people were out of work. There was a lot of uncertainty, and people decided, I need to take my economic future into my own hands. And they created small businesses. And so we saw this massive peak in small business formation. Well, we're starting to see that again, especially when we have big corporations like UPS and Amazon starting to lay off tens of thousands of people. And they're doing that because of a variety of reasons. Some of it's the economy, some of it's AI, some of it is just restructuring, some of it is just other priorities. Big companies do that. But you need to control your economic destiny. And if the SBA is going to buy into that concept, they want to know, are you going to be around to pay this loan out so that we can do it again and do it again and do it again? Now, there might be an economic developer in your area, and that economic developer might be part of the tribe. You might have a tribal economic development department or a department of commerce. But that department, that office, is charged with creating the spark for your local economic activity. They're going to attract businesses. They're going to help form policies, political policies. They're going to help recruit businesses. They're going to help create an environment that is friendly towards small businesses. They may want to know, is your business going to be good for the area? Is it going to be good for the community? Are you going to use a lot of resources and not employ a lot of people? Or are you going to be able to employ a large chunk of your community? Are you going to be able to contribute in other ways to the community, either through making sure that you lead the way with energy efficient building, lighting, recycling, water reuse, heat regeneration, all kinds of things like that. So your economic developer is going to be very interested. Sometimes those departments can have a lot of sway in whether you get to locate in a certain place. Your political leaders, maybe it's your tribal council or maybe it's your administration or others. Look, your business starting during their service is going to reflect on them. That way, when they leave office, they can say, okay, during my time in office, we started X number of businesses. I'm really proud of that. So every business that gets started is a reflection on them, and they want to be proud of the businesses that are started. And a lot of times, and especially in a lot of tribes, the tribal council or a business committee of sorts has a lot of control over whether your business can locate in a certain space or even locate on your reservation. They might say, well, your business is legal, but we're not comfortable with it. It's something that we don't think the community is ready for right now. And even though it's legal, we don't like it. So again, you're trying to communicate something to them. Regulatory agencies, whether it's OSHA or EPA or somebody like that, they're going to want to see in your business plan, how are you going to mitigate any kind of environmental damage? You're going to take care of any kind of human dangers, anything that's going to harm people, kill them, make them sick. You want to make sure that those regulatory agencies are happy with your business. You may also have some family members who think you're a little wacky. You want to start a business? Why would you want to do that? Why don't you just go get a real job? Don't you want job security? Well, again, during COVID, during economic rough patches, we don't even need a recession or a depression to go through an economic rough patch. But during those times, businesses slash headcount. They lay people off. They fire sometimes indiscriminately. You were the last one in the door. You're the first one to go. Look, don't take it personally, but that's the way the world works. Why would you want to subject yourself to that environment when you could create a business that now you control how much income you earn, how far you reach? Can you take jobs in other states, in other countries? What are the limits? You set those limits when it's your business. But you have to be able to communicate to your family members that you are not wacky, that you've done the work and you know this is going to make it. But you also need to write this business plan for you. You may want to do a business. You may want to start a business. You may, whether it's a dry cleaner, a laundromat, a car wash, a dog walking business, really any kind of business. You might be following a passion of yours, something that you've enjoyed for years. Maybe you're into model airplanes and now you want to create a model airplane business. Okay, that's great. Is it economically worth moving from hobby to business? Can you convince yourself of that? And not in an emotional way, but in a monetary way. Are you convinced that if you stopped everything else today and just focused on this, that this would pay the bills? You have to be convinced. But you also need that GPS system. Now, I say GPS, and we used to say roadmap. Okay, that kind of dates me. Yes, I do have a little gray in the beard. And my kids often ask me, well, how did you get around without a GPS? Well, we had these things called maps and atlases. The problem with those is when the road changed or when they built a new road, you had to get a new map. But your GPS just says, what? It says recalculating, recalculating, recalculating. And your business plan does the same thing. If your business plan is a little dated, or if circumstances change, you should be able to go right in, change your business plan, update it, and keep rolling right on down the road. Your business plan at its core is just a story. That's it. It's not an academic document. It's not a legal document. You don't have to have all the wherefores and the whereases and all this other stuff. You just need to be able to tell a story. So let's walk through what that story is. That story is the story of who will sell what to whom, how, where, competing with whom, and at what cost, for what price. Period. That's it. That's all you need. So let's break this down. Who? Who are you? Now, I don't know if you can tell by my LA accent, lower Appalachia, by the way. You know, I was raised in the mountains of Western North Carolina, where we were always told, don't talk about yourself. Don't get too big for your britches. Don't put yourself out there. Don't draw attention to yourself. My parents were baby boomers. My grandparents were World War II generation. And in the mountains, you just don't talk about yourself. It's not cool. But I also have a friend from Rhode Island, very different world in Rhode Island. I don't know if we have any Rhode Islanders here, but he says, and I love this, he says, if you don't blow your own horn, there's no music. And in your business plan, you have to blow your own horn. You have to talk about you. As a lender, as an investor, we need to know who you are. What is it about you that is going to drive this business forward? What is it about you that is unique enough to say, this person is the one to run this business? Now, here's the question. If the business already existed and you were seeking the role of CEO, if you were looking to step into that role and be hired, do you have the qualifications? Could you do it? That puts a little different spin on things. There are a lot of things that I think would be really, really cool to do, but I am not qualified. Look, I love to eat, and I've worked in a lot of restaurants. I've worked with restaurants. We do a tremendous business starting food trucks and working with restaurants and funding restaurants. And I love restaurants. I've got friends in the restaurant business. I am the last person in the world who needs to own a restaurant. So think about your strengths. Think about your resume. What is it about you that is going to make me believe you're the person to start and run this business? What are you going to sell? Who, that's you, will sell what? Now, we can all talk about the technical specifications of what you do. We can all talk about how you fix cars. We can all talk about how you sell clothing or that you decorate cakes. We can talk about the very fundamental things that you sell. But I'm here to tell you that's not what you sell. And I want you to think about your product or service in two ways. If you can position your product or service in one of these ways, hey, that's a home run, because I guarantee you your competitors are not thinking about it this way. But if you can do both, that's a game winner. And here they are. Here's what you sell, and it doesn't matter what you do, doesn't matter what product or service you have. This is what we all sell. Ready? Write this down. You sell a solution to a problem and a good feeling. That's it. You sell a solution to a problem and you sell a good feeling. Well, but Russ, I specialize in industrial nuts and bolts and hardware. How do I sell a good feeling for that? Okay. Well, one of my clients was a client here in North Carolina. They make the MRAP vehicles for the U.S. military, the bomb-proof transport trucks that are kind of big and not beautiful, but very, very functional. Well, they have a buyer, and her only job is to buy the connecting hardware for those trucks, the nuts and the bolts, quite literally. And she could buy those from anyone. Yes, she needs a good price. She's mandated to get a good price, but she needs quality products. That's solving the problem. Got to have a quality product. But she also buys from the people who take care of her. She doesn't buy from the person with a nasty attitude, or the person who doesn't return phone calls and emails, or the person who doesn't work on Wednesdays. She buys from the people who treat her well. And that's a good feeling. Disney does a great job at this. If you just need a place to go and dump all of your cash because your kids need a vacation, Disney will take your money. They will solve your problem. They will give you a theme park, and they will give you a wonderful experience. And they will make you feel good about it because you're going to get back home. You're going to be tired. You're going to be broke. And the kids are going to say, when can we do it again? When can we do it again? That's the good feeling. They've had a wonderful experience. If you need tickets to shows, if you need airline tickets, if you need transportation, hotels, meal vouchers, they've got all of that. That's all part of their all-inclusive packages. They can help you with that. They will solve your problem. Write them one check, send them one credit card payment. They will take care of it. You want to have a Disney experience on the ocean? Yeah, they've got you covered there too. They sell the experience. They will solve your problem. Where do we go on vacation? How do we do this? And they will make you feel good about it. How can you position what you sell in those two ways? To whom are you going to sell? Now, this is the tricky part for a lot of small business owners, because I can't tell you the number of people who've said, well, everybody's my customer. No, I might not be your customer, and that's okay. Doesn't mean I don't like you. This means I don't need or want what you have to sell. If you walk dogs, I'm not your customer. I don't have a dog. Maybe I don't live in your neighborhood. Maybe I'm a cat person. I don't know, but I may not be your customer. So when we start talking about who are we going to sell to, we need to be very, very specific. And I want you to create something called a customer avatar, AVATAR, like James Cameron movie Avatar, right? But not the 7-foot-tall blue avatars. This is a little bit different. The avatar that I'm talking about is the idealized representation of your perfect customer. Let me say that again. Your avatar is the idealized representation of your perfect customer. You can think about this in a couple of ways. If you had to describe this customer and you could only sell to this one customer, and you said, Russ, I want you to go out and find this customer. Here is a description. It's 3,000 words, or it's 300 words, or whatever it is. Could I read that description and go out into the world and find that one customer? You might also want to think about it in terms of like FBI profiling. You know, when you see and my wife loves murder shows. She loves like Criminal Minds, Criminal Intent, Criminal this, Criminal that. Well, you see the show, right? At the beginning of the show, they show you the murder, and they start to say, well, we're looking for a 40-year-old male who lives in his mother's basement, can't hold a job for more than 6 months, is into comic books and video games. And at the end of the show, who do they arrest? Who do they find? They find that guy, because that crime exhibited certain characteristics. There were certain things that they looked for. You know, this person wasn't stabbed one time. This person was stabbed 91 times, which probably means it wasn't a stranger. Okay, that narrows it down a little bit. Every crime, there are some evidentiary things that they're looking for, and they say all of this builds a profile. Now we know who we're looking for. Well, every product category, every service has a profile. Those are the things that people want and need. Who are those people who want and need them? Who needs my cake decorating service? Who needs my floral shop? Who needs my shoe repair business? Who needs my lawn mowing business? Who needs what I have to sell? You can start to create a profile and a description. Write it out. There's a podcast out there, and before the guy started the podcast, he wrote a 5,600 word. It's like a small book. He wrote a 5,600 word description of the person he wanted to listen to that podcast. Now, it became the #1 business podcast in the world, but he only talked to his avatar. He didn't talk to, hey, everybody out there in Radio Land. He talked to that one perfect customer. And if your business is built directing your message to that one perfect customer, your advertising is talking to that one perfect customer, your emails are written to that one perfect customer, people who are like that perfect customer are going to start listening and paying attention. And people who are not, well, they don't matter. They're not going to listen. They're going to tune you out, and that's okay, because you can't be all things to all people. But you need to decide who you are selling to, and you need to be very, very specific about it. I would rather you sell to 100 people who will give you $1,000 than to try to find 1,000 people to give you $100. Which one's easier? Find the 100 people. How are you going to do this? Well, are you going to do it online? Are you going to have a brick and mortar store? Are you going to have delivery? Are you going to ship UPS and FedEx? Are you going to use the postal service? Are you going to have people drop by your house and pick these up? Are you just going to send them patterns and kits? What are you going to do? How are you going to get what you do into their hands? I've got a friend who about 30 years ago, he wrote a book. And while he was writing his book, he was driving his wife insane because he was always at home. And she said, Mike, you've got to get out of the house. I know you're writing the book, but at some point you've got to get out of the house. You got to get some exercise and you got to do something to get away from here. So Mike decided, he lived in a neighborhood in Raleigh, North Carolina. And he said, well, I'll start mowing grass because that's good exercise. I'll get some sun and I'll just, I'll feel better and it'll get me out of the house and maybe I can earn a few bucks. And Mike had a very, very simple plan. He was going to only do business in a 3-block area around his home. That's to whom he was only going to sell to people who had lawns. He was not going to try to go after the apartment buildings that had concrete and things like that. How was he going to do it? He bought a stack of 3x5 blank note cards. He got an old-fashioned ink stamper and an ink pad, a hole punch, and some rubber bands. And what Mike did was every time he would mow a lawn, all the houses that were visible to him in that neighborhood, he would stamp that card, and that card said, hey, my name is Mike. I just mowed the lawn at whatever the address was. If you like my work, give me a call. And he put his number on there. He took that hole punch, he punched the card, and he put the rubber band through the hole and stuck it on the front doorknob of the house. Very simple. He took the business of every 12-year-old in Raleigh. I mean, he by the time he finished his book, he sold his lawn mowing business. It was not because the value was not in the lawnmower and the gas and the blades and the weed eater. The value was in the customer base that he had built up because he just went cheap. Some people call that guerrilla marketing, not guerrilla, guerrilla as in Guerilla, guerrilla marketing. And he did it to perfection. It cost him almost nothing. I think he spent $30 total on all of his marketing, and most of that was in the stamp because he had to have that made. Figure out how you're going to get to your customers. Where are your customers? If you have a plumbing service, you might want to grab one of those old-fashioned maps that I was talking about. You can actually have Google Maps do this for you, but I'm going to use this as an illustration. Bear with me. You remember those old compasses? The compasses that we used to use in school. It had the little pencil on one end and had the pointy tip on the other. Where you put that down, you draw a circle. Well, you can do that. That's a very valuable tool for a business that goes places. And you can say, okay, I'm only going to serve the reservation, or I'm going to serve, I'm going to serve this community in a 50-mile radius, or 100-mile or 250-mile radius, whatever it is. And you take that compass and you put that compass on your house or on your office, and you draw that circle, and everything in that circle becomes your world. Everything outside that circle, you don't worry about it. But that's going to help you focus, because now you're going to be able to take that circle and start looking at zip codes, at addresses, and how are you going to advertise to the people in that circle? How are you going to market to them? And if somebody outside that circle says, I would love for you to drive to Timbuktu and let me pay you for this work, you could say, I'm sorry, I just don't go that far. When you start to say no, that is a good thing, because that means people want you, and you are now giving them a little bit of exclusivity. But within that circle, and that circle could be the entire globe, who knows? But wherever your circle is, you also need to look at who competes with you in that circle. Mike was competing with the 12-year-olds who were mowing grass every afternoon when they got home from school, and a few lawn companies. But really, he had to take into account all of those competitors, and you need to know who your competitors are. Now, you have two types of competitors that I want you to be thinking about. One is a direct competitor. The direct competitor is the person who does exactly what you do, sells exactly what you sell. Now, if I have an Italian restaurant, I might make the best lasagna in town. And yes, Domino's and Papa John's and all those others, they're going to be direct competitors to me, because people might not want my expensive pizza. They might want a cheaper pizza, but they sell pizza. But I might have also an indirect competitor. The direct competitors look like me, do what I do. The indirect competitors, well, they are alternatives and substitutes. Maybe you feel like lasagna, but you've had a long day and you really don't want to go to Russ's restaurant and wait for his amazing lasagna. Maybe grabbing a Stouffer's lasagna at the grocery store on your way home will do the trick. Well, Stouffer's is not an Italian restaurant, but they are an indirect competitor to me. That grocery store is now an indirect competitor, because you spent your money somewhere else doing the same thing. So I want you to be thinking about both your direct and indirect competitors. Who are they? What do they sell? And how are you going to get the edge? How are you going to compete with them? Now, if you've ever watched an episode of Shark Tank, you know these last two questions are the questions that everyone asks in the Shark Tank. What are your costs? If you don't have a good handle on your costs, you're dead in the water. Nobody's going to talk to you, because there's no guarantee you can price it at a level that will make sense, that will guarantee you profitability. You have to know all of your costs. And you have two types of costs, and we're going to get into those in just a few minutes. But one is fixed costs. That means no matter how many customers you have, you're still going to pay your light bill, even if nobody walks through the door. But you also have variable costs, which means every time you sell a hot dog, you have to replace the hot dog, the bun, the little paper boat, the ketchup and mustard and onions and things. Anything that goes home with your customer or stays with your customer is a variable cost or a cost of goods sold. Anything that you pay, no matter how many customers you have, your rent, your light bill, your insurance, advertising, things like that, that is a fixed cost or overhead. You have to know what both of those are. I'm going to show you an illustration in just a moment that's going to explain why you need to know both of those things, and you need to know them cold. You need to be very intimate with those numbers. But here's the beautiful thing. Now, we've gone through this: who's going to sell what to whom, where, how, where, competing with whom, what cost, and at what price. That's your story, right? That also becomes your executive summary, it becomes the first thing people read in your business plan. It's the hook. If you can put all of this on one page, put it right at the front of your business plan, that becomes your executive summary. And when I read that, I say, this looks like a good book. I want to read more. But it will also tell me if I'm not going to be interested, and it keeps me from having to read the whole business plan. As a lender, I may not invest in businesses like yours. We may not lend to businesses like yours. And when I read that executive summary, it's going to help me very quickly say, you need to go in a different direction. Let's help you go in that direction. But we're not the ones to lend you the money. Same thing for investors or whoever. But this is the hook. This is what gets people to read more. Now, I'm going to give you a very important number that I want you to write down, because it's nowhere else in this presentation. It's nowhere else except right here. And it's very important. It might be the most important number you read today. That number is 15. 15. Write it down, circle it. 15. That's the magic number. Anything over 15 pages, people are not going to read it. It's just too much. I've had engineers bring me 3-ring binders, 3 inches thick, full of schematics and drawings and diagrams. I am not going to read that. It doesn't matter to me how high above your doors your exit sign is. Yes, it matters to OSHA, but it does not matter to me. What I want to know is I want to understand your concept. I want to understand all of these things that I've just shown you here. But if I don't understand your concept, just like even if you didn't get the right answer when I showed you the Southwestern cocktail napkin, you kind of got on the trail, right? You were there. You were so close. The transportation issues, I mean, that was pretty clear. You got there. You could start to sink your teeth into the concept. Well, the concept is really the driving force behind your business plan, because if I don't understand your concept, I don't know what you're doing. So this helps you explain your big idea. We all know what Jiffy Lube does. Now there's the 5-minute oil change. There's probably, at some point there's going to be the, while you're still driving down the road, oil change. It's the pull up beside you on the interstate oil change. And then you never have to stop for anything. You just use your phone and scan a QR code on the side of the truck, and they just hook you up like a supply ship resupplying an aircraft carrier and change your oil. We're headed in that direction. So we know what Jiffy Lube does. We know that Domino's sells pizza, but that's not what made them famous. That's not what Domino's sells. So really quickly in the chat, what is Domino's concept? The concept that took them to prominence, that took them to the top of the heap. What is that concept? Buffy, you're really close. You're really close. Fast service, yes. There's something just a little bit more specific. Yep, delivery, quick delivery. Yeah, you're there. You're there. I can feel it. Feel it. I'm going to give it to me. Yeah, during game night, yes. When you don't want to get out of that recliner. and maybe I'm dating myself a little bit here too, because they don't really push this anymore. But does anybody remember 30 minutes or it's free? Anybody remember that? They used to advertise, we're going to deliver this in 30 minutes or it's free. And they had banks of phones. They had a lot of people in the stores answering phones. And the deal was, as soon as you paid for that order, placed that order and hung up the phone, the clock started ticking. And in the early days, there were some accidents. There were some bad things that happened. And because you had, oh, Tony, you had to bring up the NOID. Why? Why did you bring up the NOID? Let's not go there. Let's not go there. But they always stressed that they rushed in the store and their drivers were safe drivers. It's not that we want to take our time making your pizza and then have our drivers do 90 miles an hour to your house and hurt somebody or kill somebody. the process happened in the store, and that 30 minutes or it's free was huge. It pushed them to say, look, we've got that circle, right? We've got that 5-mile radius around each store. And within that 5-mile radius, we can get to you in 30 minutes or less, or you don't pay. And there would be people order their pizza and start a stopwatch. They would click that watch and they would wait. And if that pizza was 1 minute late, they demanded it for free. And Domino's paid. Let's talk about McDonald's. Does anybody know what their concept was? Very similar, but if you've seen the movie The Founder with Michael Keaton, you might know the answer to this. McDonald's started as burgers, fries, and shakes. That's it. Burgers, fries, and shakes. Now they've got a lot broader menu now, but they still sell burgers, fries, and shakes. And at the time, it was standardization. Every McDonald's sold the same thing. And fast food wasn't that way. When McDonald's started, every little burger shack, every little burger stand that you went to sold something different. You knew it was a hamburger, but everybody's tasted different. If you were on a trip, McDonald's became your comfort food because no matter where you were, you could pull into a McDonald's and you knew that a cheeseburger tasted like a cheeseburger and a Big Mac was a Big Mac, no matter where. So consistency and systems became their hallmark. Ray Kroc once said, if you've got time to lean, you got time to clean. They have a system for everything, from cleaning the bathrooms to cleaning the grill to making the food to timing the food to getting the food out the door. Everything is a system. And that sparked other food chains and other businesses that are not even related to food to start creating systems like that. So enterprise. What's the concept that Enterprise still has that no other rental car company has bothered to emulate? Boom. We'll pick you up. How simple is that? Yeah. They'll pick you up. And of course, yeah, they'll pick you up and take you back to the office to sign the documents, but you don't have to sit around and wait for it. So if you're if you're on a trip and you need them to pick you up at the train station or at the airport, if you have well, not the airport, but the train station. I've done the train station before in La Crosse, Wisconsin. They picked me up and I didn't have to get an Uber to the rental car company. They'll take you in, you can fill out the paperwork and you're on your way. So simple. You'd think other rental car companies would pick up on it. They have not. But in each of these instances, once you understand the concept, you go, oh, yeah, okay. Why is everybody not doing that? Why did nobody else do 30 minutes or it's free? Why did nobody else say, oh, we could just stick to burgers, fries, and shakes and we'll be fine? Well, In-N-Out Burger did. Right? Do we have any In-N-Out fans here today? Double, animal style. Yeah. If you know In-N-Out, you know that this is the original concept that McDonald's had. Burgers, fries, shakes. It's just really, really simple. They never strayed from that. I've got a friend who travels all over the world and he goes to McDonald's. It sounds nuts. But he goes to McDonald's in Japan. He goes to McDonald's in Korea. He goes to McDonald's in Vietnam, in Germany, in France, in Finland. He goes to McDonald's because he wants to see what's on their local menu. Yeah, they don't sell burgers in India, but they serve a lot of other good stuff. So again, once you explain that concept and somebody can visualize that and they say, oh yes, now I know what you do. I understand what you do. So if you're a dog walker, you're not just walking dogs. You're helping their owners buy free time. You're helping their owners not have to worry about Fido. Is Fido fed? Is Fido walking? Is Fido getting exercise? Is Fido playing with other dogs and socializing? Is Fido out using the bathroom or is he in using my rug? Peace of mind, a good feeling, right? You're solving a problem, creating a good feeling. we have that concept, we want to start looking at the market. Yes, who you sell to is really important, but you need to take the lay of the land. We need to look at, is your industry in a position of strength? Is your industry growing? Is your industry on its way down? Look, even newspapers are trying to get out of the newspaper business right now. Is this a fad? Is it a flash in the pan? Is it going to go away? Maybe you just need to capitalize on it now, make all the money you can, and then get out. Is this the Beanie Baby fad of what you're doing? Yeah, a lot of people made money with Beanie Babies back in the 90s, but I don't see a lot of Beanie Baby conventions and things like that today. What does that industry strength look like? What are the economic conditions? And what do the economic conditions do to businesses like yours? Okay, you might sell fast cars, but if gas prices skyrocket, then maybe fast electric cars would be the better way to go versus fast gas guzzling cars. How friendly is the economy to businesses like yours? Are you recession proof? Are you in healthcare? You know, healthcare is pretty recession proof. Food, fairly recession proof. I mean, yeah, restaurant prices have continued to skyrocket and some restaurants have closed up, but people are still eating out. Maybe not as often, maybe not as much, but they're still eating out. What kind of strength do your buyers have? Now, I say here consumer or buyer. On that slide, you'll see consumer or buyer because they're not the same person necessarily. If I own a toy store, the consumer might be 6 years old. The buyer might be 30. See? So I have to convince the kid to come in and play with the toys, but I've got to convince mom to buy the stuff, right? Or grandma. I mean, let's face it. That's what grandparents are for, right? Grandparents are the ones that buy the toys. And, you know, Nana lets me do it, if I hear that one more time. So what kind of strength does your buyer have? Are they susceptible to economic downturns? Or is your buyer going to buy from you no matter what? Are you considered a necessity? Are you considered a must-have, even if it's a want? I mean, look, nails, getting your nails done. Is that a necessity? Could you survive without it? If the zombie apocalypse happened today, could you survive without getting your nails done, your hair done? Yeah, you could. But you ask my wife what she says. It's a necessity. Okay. Two very different viewpoints, but again, hers is the only one that matters. Let's face it. Are you solving a big enough problem for enough people? Niches make riches. Okay. This is why heart surgeons make more money than general practitioners or family doctors. Your family doctor is going to see you for everything. But the orthopedist is going to replace your hip and replace your knee. Okay. They're going to make a lot more money. They're going to work just as hard, but it's different kind of work. But guess who makes a lot more money than the orthopedist down at the hospital? The orthopedist that works for the NFL team. That orthopedist that contracts with the NBA team or the NFL team. They make a lot of money because they serve a very, very specific market. Because if that specific market is unable to play and get back in the game, the team loses money. Are you a big enough problem solver for enough people and the right people? So what I want you to do is I want you to start looking at sources of information. Where can you find information on your buyers? And yeah, ChatGPT can help. Gemini can help. Claude and all these other AIs, they can help. But they also hallucinate. AI is designed to give you an answer, even if it's wrong. So if you ask, even up to just a few months ago, if you asked AI, give me the 5 reasons Japanese won World War II, they would say, well, here's why Japan won World War II. And a human would not do that. A human would say, well, Japan didn't win World War II. The Japanese lost. So AI is not always reliable. It's not yet reliable. So go and Google your business and put the word trade association or professional association in the search. Professional and trade associations will give you the latest and greatest information. And yes, it might cost you money to join, but it's money well spent. If you have a local chamber of commerce, if you have a tribal chamber of commerce, if you have a state chamber of commerce, that's a great way to get access to information. If you have a tourism related business, here in Western North Carolina, we're very tourism dependent, and our travel and tourism authorities and travel and tourism departments keep up with a lot of data for our hotels, our restaurants, our attractions, our Airbnbs and Verbos and things like that. Look to your competitors. Now, guys, your competitors are probably not going to talk to you. They're probably not going to tell you everything you want to know. But it's just like Yogi Berra once said, you can see a lot just by looking around. If you observe your competitors, if you shop your competitors, if you experience your competitors, you will start to learn from them. And you'll learn that maybe they're cheaper than everybody else because they can afford to be. They've owned their building for 40 years. They don't have a payment. Maybe you're not in that position. You don't have that luxury. Talk to your buyers. Talk to your customers. Customers are the best source of information. My goodness, they will tell you, well, I love going places. I love travel. But I hate flying because flying just is miserable. Okay, well, have you heard about my new airline that's going to fly between Dallas and San Antonio and Houston? Are there other sources of information? Do you have a tribal business department or business development department or Department of Commerce with somebody who can help you? Do you have a local SBA office or small business development center? If you have a local community college or university within an easy drive, you have access to some of this information. University and community college libraries have access to vast amounts of information, even if it's not on site. And you'll have access to that. You don't have to be a student to use those academic libraries. One of the beautiful things about academic libraries, too, is that they have research librarians on staff, and they're like a dog on a bone. You ask them a question, they will help you find the answer because that's what they love. That's what they signed up for. When you start to look at that competitive landscape, look at the number of competitors. Is it growing? Well, that might mean that there's opportunity. Is it shrinking? It might mean that opportunity is dwindling. If it's growing, that might mean the field is getting crowded. I don't want to do it. If it's shrinking, that might mean there's more room for me to get in. Really, it's just a matter of perspective. Growing or shrinking doesn't mean good or bad. It means, is there a place for you? Are your competitors strong? Are they profitable? Are they growing? Or are they struggling? Well, how do you know? How do you know? Well, start looking at what they're doing. Are they raising their prices? Are they lowering their prices? If they're lowering their prices, it might mean that they're trying to get more customers in the door, even if it's not their perfect avatar. If they're raising prices, it might mean that their customers are they're willing to weather some higher prices, and they're going to stick with them because they trust them, they know them, they love them. Maybe they're raising prices to remain profitable because they want to stay around the next time the customer needs them. Are they adding inventory, or are they selling? They're having a fire sale. If they're liquidating inventory, trying to get rid of it. Guys, I had a client, it was an outdoor outfitter. It's been about 20 years ago, and they called me. They said, look, we're having a little bit of a trouble here because every season we bring in new inventory, and we have a sale on last season's inventory. And we've noticed a pattern that people only shop when we discount last season's inventory. It's like people who only buy Halloween when Spirit Halloween's trying to get out of there so they can turn into Spirit Christmas or something. Well, they had trained their customers to only buy the discounted merchandise. They gave them no incentive to buy the full price merchandise. So what are your customers doing? What are your competitors doing? Well, how are they training their customers? Are they hiring people? That's a good sign. Hiring people is a good sign because it means they've got extra work for them to do. We don't just hire people out of the goodness of our hearts. We hire people who can add value to our business. We hire people who can add value to the customer experience. If I have a restaurant and my customers start demanding really great desserts, I might hire a dessert chef. I'm probably not going to bring in a custom baker or somebody who does custom desserts unless I can pay for that person by selling those desserts. If they're laying people off, that might be another sign in a different direction. But remember, I told you that you have to have a really good handle on your costs, direct and indirect costs. Here's why. Every business has a break-even point. Your break-even point is that point where your profit is zero, but your loss is also zero. You've just broken even. You sell one more unit, one more hour, one more thing, one more widget, one more whatever. Now you're making a profit. You sell one less, you've lost money for the month. You need to know where that is. Your break-even point becomes the high jump bar. Think of your business as a track meet. When you see the pole vault, when you see the high jump, the higher the bar goes, the jumper approaches it a little bit differently. They might run a little faster. They might step a little bit differently. They might leave the ground from a different point. They might leap from a different point. They're going to take a different approach, but they need to know how high the bar is or they're going to miss it. They're going to knock it down. In business, if you don't know how high that bar is and you knock it down, you're not making money. You need to know how to get over that bar. So if your break even says you have to sell so many cups of coffee every single day to break even, and you have a bad day, you can say, well, you know what? I didn't break even today. I know I lost money. I got to make it up tomorrow. So over the course of a month, did you sell enough coffee to break even? The blue line here that you see is your fixed costs or your overhead. Now, I mentioned those before, but it doesn't mean that it's the same every month. Your electric bill is going to change. Your marketing and advertising is going to change a little bit. All that means is it's not tied to the number of customers. So as you go on out there over that the course of that x-axis there, it's just not going to change because you have to pay those. You have to pay your rent no matter what. Right? Your rent is not dependent on the number of customers who walk in the door. If it is, call me. We need to talk. Your variable costs, or that red line, always begins on top of the blue line. And every time you sell a unit, every time you drive a mile, every time you do something, it costs you. And you have to account for that. But that green line, that's your sales. That starts at zero. That could be every day, every week, every month, every year. Starts at zero, but the higher that number climbs, the closer it gets to your break even. And I love businesses that say, well, I paid my rent, I paid my utilities this month. Well, you didn't break even unless you're selling your brain. If you're selling a service like accounting, like consulting or coaching, if you're selling something that doesn't require you to maintain inventory, then yes, that X at the bottom right there becomes your break-even point. But for a lot of businesses that carry inventory, you got to go to the Y. You've got to sell enough to get you to that point. A small business development center, small business center, a university, even somebody who knows how to do this can walk you through this. There's several different formulas for doing this, and one of the deals that I make with the Native Learning Center is that they can put you in touch with me. I'll help you with this. I'll give you some worksheets, or I'll help you kind of walk through this. It's really simple, but you need to know it. You need to know your break-even points. Probably the most important number you can know for your business. Once you know that, everything else is icing on the cake. Okay, having cash flow projections and profit and loss projections, that's great because it helps you kind of be inspired, but it's not accurate. Everything changes from day one when you get into the thick of it. But your break even, that's going to be pretty consistent. You need to know it. So let's talk now about your business structure. We've got 20 minutes left. I want to leave time for Q&A. Every business has a structure, and that structure is important. And your reader of your business plan is going to want to know what that structure is and why you chose it and what it's going to do for your business. If you are one person in business by yourself, trying to make a profit, you are by default a sole proprietor. It's the easiest type of business to start. You basically open a bank account and you open the doors. You start doing business. Now I say a bank account. Bank account doesn't make you official, but a bank account helps you separate business money and personal money. Never, ever run your business out of your personal checking account. Never run your business with your personal credit card or debit card. Keep them separate. But you're going to start a sole proprietorship. And if that sole proprietorship is under your own name, then you don't even have to do anything to claim a name. It's yours. One person engaged in commerce, trying to make a profit, you are a sole proprietorship. If you have two or more people working together, engaged in commerce, trying to make a profit, you are a partnership. Now, what's the difference really in these other than the number of people? As a sole proprietorship, you and the business are one. You are joined. If the business makes a profit, that profit belongs to you. If the business loses money, that loss belongs to you. If the business gets sued, you get sued. Because you and the business are one. You own 100% of the good, the bad, and the ugly. In a partnership, let's just say, for the sake of argument, that we are 50-50 partners, you and I. We now split profits down the middle. We split losses down the middle. If we need to put money into the business, I'll put in half, you put in half. If we get sued, you're responsible for half and I'm responsible for half. Because we are still the business. Now that 50-50 partnership, by the way, is a mythical creature. People say it exists, and some people try to make it exist because they put it on paper. But in reality, the 50-50 partnership never exists. It can't. Because if you and I have the same power in the business and we start to butt heads, we can kill the business because we are unable to make a decision. So from the get-go, decide very early on who will be the majority owner. It could be a 51-49 partnership. It could be a 95-5 partnership. Whatever it is, decide very early on who has the majority ownership. And the practical way to do this, folks, is you're not going to like this. It may be your idea. You had this idea. It's a great idea. But the person who brings the money to the table or the most money to the table has the majority ownership. I'm not putting in a lot of my money if I have no say in how this runs. If you have all the power over my money, that's not going to be a good fit. So again, the natural order of things is just the person with more money, they get the majority owner stake. But partnerships are still messy. You need a little something extra. You need some documents. You need documents to help you sort things out and know where the limitations are. You need a partnership agreement. A partnership agreement is a prenup for your business. It says, how are you going to split the profits and losses? How are you going to contribute to the business? What is your role? What is my role? How do we keep from stepping on each other's toes? And what happens when we do? Because humans are messy. Humans are always messy and humans will have conflict. So if you want a conflict-free life, do not go into partnership with anyone else. However, look at some of the best businesses in the world today. They started as partnerships. Google, Microsoft, Hewlett-Packard. My goodness, Hewlett-Packard. What a powerhouse. And it started in a garage. Apple, a garage. Okay. So you need a partnership agreement to help you sort through disagreements when they happen. And however you decide, is it going to go to arbitration? Are you going to seek lawyers? Are you going to sue each other? Are you going to arm wrestle? What are you going to do? Needs to be in writing. Now, if you want to separate yourself from your business, you're going to want to form another type of entity, either an LLC or a corporation. So let's talk about corporations first. When you form a corporation, you are essentially creating another living, breathing human. That's what it is. It's a human, and it has a life of its own. Most of the big companies we think of are C corporations, which means they get taxed twice, at the corporate level and at the ownership distribution level. Well, you can file a document with Uncle Sam that says, hey, Uncle Sam, I'm a small business. I don't want to get taxed twice. I have 100 or fewer stockholders, and they're all real humans, living, breathing humans. They're not pension plans or foreign government. And I just want to be a subchapter S corporation. At that point, all the money that the corporation makes zeroes out at the end of the year, and you pay taxes on that at your personal income tax rate. But it separates your business from your personal assets. And as long as your paperwork is right, your documentation is right, and you do everything you're supposed to do, you're going to be secure. They can sue the business out from under you, but they can't come after your personal assets. The LLC does something similar. And a lot of people say, well, this is just a way to do what a corporation does, but I don't have to file all that paperwork. Oh, no, you still do. And an LLC is designed for a different type of business. So I want you to have a conversation with two people before you make a decision on which way to go. I want you to have a conversation with an attorney and a CPA. Not your cousin who does family law and divorce law. I want you to talk to an attorney who does business and contracts. Okay. And that person is going to look at your business from a risk standpoint. The CPA, and I say CPA, not just a bookkeeper, a CPA has to have a certain number of education hours every year. They're going to look at your business from a tax exposure standpoint. And you want to see, do they agree on which way you should go? Or do they give you different advice? If they give you different, one says LLC, one says corporation, why? And which one makes the better argument? Dirty little secret here, because my brother's an attorney, and I can tell you this from personal experience. Attorneys love to form LLCs because they charge the same amount of money that they charge to form a corporation, and it takes them a fraction of the time. You can form your own LLC in about 15 minutes online. Lawyers love that. So again, are they making the argument because it's good for them or because it's good for you? But you need to have those two conversations. I cannot tell you which way to go. That's not my role. But what I want you to understand is that as you create, let's just look at this as a tree. As you create a more complex organization, you go up the tree. It lowers your risk, but it does increase the complexity. Down at the bottom, it's very low complexity. It's easy to run. It's easy to do. You want to buy a truck as a sole proprietor, go out and buy a truck. You don't have to have a board meeting to do that. You don't have to take a vote, but it does increase your risk. That squiggly line that you see there in the middle between the partnerships and the other more complex organizations, that is what's called a corporate veil. Now, it's not a corporate steel door or a rock wall. It's a veil, which means it's very thin. And that's all that separates you and your assets from the business and the business assets. Every business is going to have risk. So this is why it's really important to choose the right legal structure. And you want to be able to explain this in your business plan. You don't want to be able to say, hey, ChatGPT told me to do this. No. You want to look at financial, regulatory, market, legislative, and inherent risk. Let's break these down really quickly for you. Financial risk is, are you using somebody else's money? Can they sue you? Are you borrowing money? How close to that are you? Are you having to sign a personal guarantee? Is there regulatory risk? If OSHA comes in, are they going to be able to come after you or just your business? Market risk is, people's tastes change. Habits change. Look at the Catskills in New York. People used to go there for vacations all the time. They used to leave New York City and go to the Catskills for vacation. Now they go somewhere else. They go to Newport or wherever or they just, come down here to North Carolina and visit our beautiful mountains. But things change. Eggs were really bad for us. Eggs were full of cholesterol. Then eggs were really good for us. And then wine was really bad for us. And then wine was really good for us. We, got to keep up with these things. Legislative risks. About 20 years ago, I was sitting, I was talking to a group of automotive shop owners. There were about 200 people in the room. And I said, what would you do tomorrow if you left this event today and you get home and you find out that Congress has passed law that there's to be no more internal combustion engines built? And they laughed. I mean, at the time, it was funny. Who would have thunk it? Look at what Finland has done. There are other Scandinavian countries now, Norway, Sweden. They're starting to pass laws that will phase out internal combustion engines. Just about the time you think, I've got it made, somebody passes a law, either locally, tribally, statewide, federal, something is going to change. It's just going to change. How does that affect your business? Inherent risk. Cannot tell you the number of times people have come to me and said, my business, there's no risk in my business. I don't have any business. Well, you sell some of the same things Walmart sells. That's a risk. Your business is putting people on a roof of a building. You either do HVAC or you re-roof houses. There's an inherent risk there. The Walmart, you sell what they sell, that's market risk. Putting people up a tree or on a house, that's inherent because that's dangerous. You have to protect yourself and your business from all of these risks. You don't have to have all the answers, but the reader of your business plan is going to want to know that you asked the questions. What could kill my business? What could harm my business? Am I prepared to deal with that? Either through insurance, my legal structure, policies, procedures, training, anything. What is it? There are some things that will help your business. It will help your business plan, and there's some things that will hurt. So let's run through these really quickly, and we'll take about the last 5 minutes or so for Q&A. We want to see that you have a really well-developed product or service. Again, not just I make elevators. We get you to the top floor faster than anybody else in a smooth and safe way. It needs to solve a problem, and it needs to create a good feeling. We want to know that you understand your customers. Who are those people who are going to be buying from you? Do you know them? You know who they are? Can you get to them? Do you have realistic assumptions and goals? I would rather see a realistic business plan than a flowery pie-in-the-sky business plan that is never going to be achieved. Do you understand your costs? Do you have a complete picture of everything that's going to cost you money in your business? And do you know what financial resources you have? Do you know what resources you're going to need to access? You know what kind of money? Again, we have people come in all the time and say, I need $1 million. I need $100,000. Well, my first question to you is going to be this. Let's say you write a business plan and you say, I need $50,000 to start my business. My question is, could you do it for 25? Could you do it for 15? Could you do it for 10? How could you do it, and how much could you do for nothing? You see, when we start businesses, there are certain things we want. Maybe it's equipment, technology, vehicles. You need it or do you want it? How could you start for less? How can you build up? Maybe you use one customer, one contract, go get another customer, another contract, and build it on a shoestring. There are things that are going to hurt your business, like trying to do too much, trying to be all things to all people. It's going to hurt you. Pick a lane, stay in it. If you're over optimistic about your market size, everybody's my customer. No, they're not. Again, if you have a small market, that's okay. Show us how you're going to get to them and convert them into buyers. If you underestimate your competition, they're going to smoke you. Don't underestimate, even if it, there might be a competitor down the street who's just a crabby guy. He's just got a terrible attitude. People hate him, but he does the best work in town and people trust him. Yes, they can't stand him, but they know that he's going to do it right. And so they keep using him. Don't ever underestimate those people. In your business plan, it is okay to use industry jargon, industry language, industry speak. It's okay. But the first time you use it, if you use an acronym, like we use the XYZ method. Okay, explain what that is. That's what your parentheses are for, right? Put it in parentheses. Explain to me like I know nothing. What is it that you're talking about? And then you can move on. You can still use that. But a lot of people assume that we know. We don't. And inconsistent information and repetition. So here, let me give you a little trick. As you write your business plan, you're probably not going to sit down on a Friday night and have your business plan ready to go by Sunday night. It's just not going to happen. That's not life. So as a function of time, you're going to write it piecemeal over maybe weeks, maybe months. You're going to have something on page 6 that doesn't harmonize with what you put on page 3. That's okay. Read your business plan from the last page to the first. Just read it, not literally backward, not word for word, but read section by section from the back to the front. That's going to help you catch inconsistencies. You're going to see something and say, well, I didn't answer it. I kind of raised a question and I didn't answer it. I need to answer that. Okay. So, if you do that, it's going to make your business plan better. But let's just give you the easy stuff. This is what you came for. You're going to want to go to get the free business plan. Now, there's an extra space in there. Let me tell you, I don't know how that extra space got in there. It's probably just a conversion error from where we put this in, but it's bit.ly/free B-plan template with the dashes in the middle, no spaces. This is also case sensitive. Make sure everything is lowercase, but you're going to download that business plan. It's going to help you do a brain dump. Get it all out there. Yes, and Brooke has already put the link in there. Thank you so much, Brooke. What I want to do now is if you have any questions, let's jump in the chat and put those in there. And then I'm going to finish with a really, really quick story. And then I'll let you have the rest of your day. Okay. I'm not seeing anybody talk or write. So let me jump into the really quick story. I want to tell you about a woman named Sharice. Sharice is one of my favorite clients of all time. Sharice was a physical therapist, and she came to me wanting to break out on her own and start her own physical therapy practice. And physical therapy is a demanding job. It's physically demanding. It's exhausting. And Sharice was just a ball of energy, just wanted to write this business plan, wanted to do it all herself. She wanted to do her own corporation. She wanted to really get in there all the way. And we started, and we kind of came up with a break even. And her break even was she needed to see 13 patients a week to break even. 13 patients a week based on all of her costs, her overhead and everything else. 13 patients a week, she could break even. And she looked at that and she said, that's great. I'm seeing 8 patients a day right now by myself, not just in the practice. I'm seeing 8 patients a day by myself. So in 2 days, I can break even. I've got 3 days of profitability. And I said, but Sharice, you can't do everything yourself. If you start to see all these patients by yourself, you're never going to have time to run your business. So in her business plan, Sharice started to add milestones. And she would say, okay, when I reach this number of customers, this number of patients, I'm going to have to add a physical therapy assistant. When I get here, I'm going to have to add an office manager, somebody at the front desk. When I get here, another physical therapy assistant. When I get here, I have to hire another physical therapist. She created these milestones in her plan so that she could now run her business. She didn't get overwhelmed because each one of those thresholds was below her physical capacity. It's not like she maxed it out and says, now I don't have any time to hire somebody. She took it one step at a time. Flash forward today. Sharice now owns 3 physical therapy practice locations in Georgia. She no longer practices physical therapy. She oversees her operation, and she invests in real estate, which is what she always wanted to do. She has a business that runs because of the way she built it from her business plan. She designed it to be the way she wanted it to be. You don't have to design a business like anybody else's. You can design it to be what you want it to be. I hope this helps. I hope this business plan template will help you get some of this stuff you got in your head onto paper, because once begun is half done. I wish you all the best. Thanks for joining us today.
Okay, thank you so much for the incredible presentation, Russ. Always so informative, and I always really, really love the stories that you weave throughout the presentation. I did go ahead and put the webinar feedback survey link for you folks in the chat. They do just take about 1 minute to 3 to complete. It is anonymous, so you don't have to worry about your name or your email being connected to it. It's just a little survey that helps us at the Native Learning Center know what is working, what we can improve upon, and then we do share the feedback with our instructors as well, so it helps everybody all around. We hope you can join us for our next webinar. That's going to be this week on Thursday. This will be about not treating your grant maker like an ATM with Diane Leonard. And you'll be able to check out this as well as our other recorded webinars on our YouTube channel. We do have a whole YouTube playlist called the Catheta Webinar Archive, and I'm going to put that link for you in the chat as well. They go back about 2 years, so we encourage you to check out that resource. It's completely free to you. Share it with your friends, share it with your colleagues. And we hope that you can check out our other upcoming training events. We post about them on our various social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. If you are somebody who likes to listen to podcasts, we have an in-house produced podcast, the Hopathanga Native American podcast. You can listen to that wherever you listen to your podcasts, or if you are somebody who prefers to actually watch us interview our special guests, we post those videos to our YouTube channel as well. There's a whole Hopathanga Native American podcast playlist. But otherwise, that is all we have for you today, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in. If anybody missed the beginning of it, know that you will you can catch the recording tomorrow morning once it generates. I'll post it to our YouTube channel, and it'll be available here on the learning platform as well in the courses section. But otherwise, I hope everybody has a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you again, Russ. Hope you have a good one, and we'll talk to everybody again really soon.
Thank you.